get started while everyone kind of still joins. But good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today, and welcome to the Hive Think Tank webinar series. So my name's Olivia. I'm the operations manager at the Hive in Silicon Valley, and we're super excited to have you join us and hear from our amazing expert panel of speakers. So with that being said, I'm going to quickly go over some of today's best practices for the webinar and explain what the Hive Think Tank does. And then I'll pass it over to Ravi, who is the Hive's founder and managing director. So we do love questions. So we would love for the audience to use the Q&A button and not the general chat box at the bottom of your screen, and to ask our presenters any questions, which they'll answer towards the end of the 1-hour webinar. The session is also being recorded and will be available to view on our YouTube channel later on. So the Hive Think Tank is an ecosystem of thought leaders, corporations, and entrepreneurs. So we're an event and content platform with a focus on AI, enterprise, security, sustainability, health tech, and so much more. We do host events almost every other week on different cutting edge topics in technology and business. So I'll link the meetup group in the chat box shortly after, but we would love for you to join our meetup group and newsletter just to stay up to date on all of our events. And then we do actually have an event coming up next month around ChatGPT, so stay tuned for that. So lastly, I want to thank our sponsors, Avanta Ventures and Gamuda, for their support. And for our audience, if you are interested in getting involved with the Hive Think Tank, feel free to reach out to me at olivia@hivedata.com. And then you can also follow us on Twitter and also on LinkedIn. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Ravi, who's our managing director, to talk more about the Hive and also introduce our Hive Southeast Asia team.
Thank you, Olivia. And it's a great pleasure to be hosting this event today. As we were earlier discussing, a lot of what we do tends to be around, how companies can have high growth rates and drive towards profitability. And today's event is really around the social impact and other social and in future events, we would love to do things around sustainability and other aspects. So the Hive is a global organization. It's venture funds with multiple different locations. In the US, our focus is on the enterprise and a few key vertical areas that you see out there. Across all the different Hives throughout the globe, we are very early stage focused and focused on the applications and uses of data and AI. And as you all know, that since November, the interest around AI has just kind of skyrocketed. And so we all find ourselves in a very good place to kind of drive change, drive impact, and drive social good. The next slide, please. So if you're an early stage entrepreneur in Malaysia or in Southeast Asia, we would love for you to reach out to our team here from the Hive Southeast Asia, Haizam, Angel, and the rest of the team. In addition to the Hive presence we have in US and Southeast Asia, we also have separate funds in Brazil, India, and later this year, we're going to have a sustainability AI fund in Europe. So if you're from another location and are interested in finding out more about the Hive, please reach out to us. Next slide, please. So before we jump into this, as Olivia mentioned, the Hive is going to be hosting a series of events on large language models and generative AI. And so please sign on to our meetup group that Olivia is going to share just now, and you'll get notified about the events. It is just my great pleasure to introduce Haizam, who's the managing director of the Hive Southeast Asia. I'll hand it over to you, Haizam.
Hi, everyone. Name's Syed Haizam Jamlulal, and I'm the managing partner of the Hive Southeast Asia. Before I start, I'd like to wish all those observing the month of Ramadan, Salam Ramadan, and happy fasting. So the Hive Southeast Asia, we're an early stage pre-series A venture capital fund under Penjana Capital, the Ministry of Finance's Penjana National Program that was launched about a year and a half ago. We basically invest into companies that will drive Malaysia and the region into the fourth industrial revolution, digitizing the nation. We've done, we're looking for companies that will be in that rhetoric. At the moment, we seem to be having problems. Dr. Hatini Zainuddin is having issues, technical issues signing on. But without further ado, I will pass the mantle on to all the different speakers. We've got a great panelist. We've got Deborah Henry, the founder of Fugeelah, Joachim Lim, the founder of PichaEats, and Nurul Azwa, the CEO of Selangor Youth Community and Yayasan Raja Muda Selangor, who I work closely with. Perhaps in the time being, while Dr. Tini sorts out her technical issues, I'll get them each to introduce themselves. If that's okay with you guys? Maybe we can start with Deborah.
Sure, thank you, Haizam. Well, good morning, good evening, I guess, depending on where you are. I'm really happy to be part of this panel. And I do think it's a really interesting topic. So I'd like to share a little bit about myself, a bit about the work that I do here in Malaysia. And yeah, and then we can jump into what I think will be quite an interesting discussion. So I come from the fashion and entertainment industry, but about 14 years ago, I started my nonprofit called Fugeelah, and we provide education services to the refugee community in Malaysia. So very much a traditional nonprofit model. And about 5 years ago, recognizing that fundraising in Malaysia for the work we do with marginalized communities is very challenging, we thought about setting up a impact business, social enterprise, with the idea that it would perhaps help us sort of develop a slightly more resilient financial, our own financial self, and be able to sustain the running of our nonprofit. So our jewelry brand, Fugeelah, and corporate gifting brand was set up about 5 years ago. And it is an impact business social enterprise, and we make and design jewelry in-house. And we work with the community, providing jobs, providing skills training, but ultimately providing a percentage of our profits that are channeled back to our nonprofit. And as you can imagine, with any business, it is challenging. You need a degree of passion to stay the course, but also a huge amount of grit to be able to overcome a lot of challenges. So, I mean, I guess without, we do get caught up a lot in labels, I think. And, whether we use the word social enterprise, for-profit business, nonprofit, and of course now with a lot of new buzzwords like ESG, I think it's important to recognize that it isn't just about kind of greenwashing, as it were. So I think that's an important point to kind of recognize. But I would like to also highlight that, coming out of the pandemic, COVID has taught us a lot of things. I think we realized that businesses cannot continue the way that they've been running with this kind of very sole purpose of maximization of profits, where it's all about making money at the expense of everything, the environment, the people, your purpose. And I always use this quote that Richard Branson said, which is doing good is good for business. And so it's actually taking a step back and recognizing that no matter what business you run and how you run it, social good is a super important part. And I think with the changing landscape, you also have changing consumer habits, right? We recognize that growing consumers are very concerned about the cause that they're supporting, the ethics of companies. They seek out knowledge to find out, what is this business about? What do they do? And do I like what they stand for, or do I not? So you see a changing consumer base that have more knowledge, and I'm actually a little bit more, I guess, critical in terms of the companies that they buy from and support. So I think that's another important part to take into consideration. And then getting back to the buzzwords on ESG, it really is important to not tick boxes and recognizing that ESG is actually about processes. It's about really being able to look at your supply chain and ask the right questions. It's about being able to check, to look at the people that work for your business. We know that people are the center of any business, the people that work for you and also the people that you serve. And so looking at processes when it comes to how they feel, what their wages are like, is their welfare taken care of? So our actions and our words really need to be aligned, need to line up with each other. Otherwise, I think your sustainability of your business is in question. So I would say, even though like for Fugeelah, we are considered a social enterprise and impact-based business, when I talk about us, I say, yeah, we're a business. We need to make profits. It's important to recognize that social enterprises need to make money. But we look at people, we look at planet, and we look at processes as key parts of how we do what we do. And yeah, I think maybe I'll talk a little bit about, I'll pass it back to you, Haizam, but talk a little bit about the challenges perhaps when we later on in the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah. We've got Dr. Atini online already.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Apologies. My laptop decided that it was going to create drama for me this morning, so I've been running around getting ready. Sorry, apologies.
No,
hi, everyone.
No. Hi, Tini. No, just introducing yourself, your household name in the Malaysian regional ecosystem, queen, humanitarian and social activist, and the definition of the word change maker. So you're the moderator of this event. Deborah just introduced herself, and now I'm passing over to Yuet Kim to introduce PichaEats and I guess how you guys are looking at the digital side, and then we pass on to Nurul Azwa. Then back to you, Tini. Yeah, I'll leave it to you now.
Absolutely. Thank you. So Kim, you're going next?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Kim, and I'm one of the co-founders of PichaEats. We started in 2016 or 1 year back a bit as a student project, and it became a social enterprise that works with refugees at this stage. We would tell people that we're actually a food business rebuilding lives of refugees in Malaysia, and we work with refugees from Palestine, Pakistan, Syria, Afghanistan, and Iraq. And how it works is that they will cook from home, their homemade, authentic, traditional recipe, and then we would deal with the logistics and operations, customer liaisons, and even marketing to deliver all this home cooked food to customers. And our customers range from corporates like Google or Facebook or insurance industry, bank industries, all sorts of industries that requires food for their events, functions, and even their company's pantry. So that's basically what we do in a nutshell.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Nurul Azwa, what do I say? Do I call you Azwa then?
Yeah, you just can call me Azwa, yes. Thank you, Dr. Tini.
Yes, sure.
Good morning, everyone. All right, so I'm from Selangor Youth Community. In short, we call it SAY and Yayasan Raja Muda Selangor. So both are under the patronage of the His Highness Raja Muda of Selangor, the Crown Prince of Selangor. So basically at SAY, basically we're dealing with the young people. We are non-profit organizations, we are NGO. We have 4 focus areas. Thank you to Boston Consulting Group for their pro bono services. Back then in 2015, identified the 4 focus areas of interest of young people community service, entrepreneurship, arts and creative, sports and wellness. So we deal a lot with marginalized community, especially among the B40 youth. We also have programs with youth at risk coming from young offenders background, passion, living with HIV, from the calibers, those upon turning 18 years old, they are forced to leave the orphanage center, and many more. So up to date, we have impacted and reached out to more than 300,000 young people, not just in Selangor. So we've also have expanded our programs, giving grants, seed funding for the young people to initiate, advocate for community work in their local community, not just in Malaysia, but we also open it up to the ASEAN countries. So that's in a nutshell what we do at SAY. Yeah.
Great, thank you, Azwa. So now I just wanted to ask Kim first. How do you see social impact and viable business models interacting with each other? You've been doing this for quite a while, so yeah, let's start with you first, and then I'll ask Deborah the same question.
Sure. I think there are a lot of potential to be working together, especially quite a few social enterprises. I'm not quite sure about refugees, but the refugees, there are a few, but there are also more social enterprises that work with like the single mothers community, or like a community that works with the special kids who needs different assistance and all those things. I think as a social enterprise, we've tried to work with different social enterprises to widen up our impact and do things together, and especially leveraging on each other's network. That's very, very important. That's because, like example, like let's say I work with a company that provides a gifting solution, and we would share our B2B corporate network and contacts so that both of us benefit from each other. I think most important thing is how to see both sides have this, or even with the customer, have like a triple win solution. That's a very important aspect of collaborating and bringing things together to propose to the customer end. So I think that there's a lot and huge potential in bringing this together, and it requires one side, at least one side, to take a step back and give a bit more to be working with the other partners and the customer.
Great, thank you for that, Kim. Deborah, how do you see social impact and viable business models interacting with each other?
I mean, I echo what Kim was saying. You know, I think collaboration is so key in the sector. Very often everyone works in silos and alone, and the work can be very challenging. So what I think that impact businesses or social enterprises do well and better is that they work closely with the communities. So they understand the problems that the communities face, the needs that the communities face. They've often done years and years of work and actually gone from non-profit models to then actually looking at profit businesses, right? And so, and they, with that kind of knowledge that they have, I mean, that's a really important part. And when you then look at your traditional businesses, they now, for you to use the word have to tick a box, right? Whether it's your CSR or your ESG, especially the bigger the company is. And so they don't have that knowledge, they don't have those key insights, right? And so I think shifting away from this sort of like touch and go kind of where you kind of help one charity or one NGO one off and then you move on to the next thing. When they work with impact businesses, it can be more sustainable. That they are working with a company that understands the ground, they understand what they're doing. They're not harming the communities that you're working with, you're actually helping them in slightly more sustainable ways. So basically teaching people how to fish instead of giving them a fish. I think this is an important, charity is still important and necessary, which are like sort of more handouts, but it's super important to be able to then work with sustainable business models, right? And so I think impact businesses actually can be that perfect partner for your traditional businesses in order to create greater impact, to build more sustainable businesses. And I think in the long run, it actually helps the whole ecosystem, because it basically helps people take care of themselves and build better lives for themselves. But I think it's also changing mindsets, right? I think in order for that to happen, you need more businesses that are open to not buying the cheapest gifts from, say, made in wherever it's made, but looking at, okay, what can I actually source from Malaysia within our borders that actually has a story, tells a story, right? So yeah. I think with changing customer habits, and I think the business world also has to change their mindsets in terms of, yeah, looking for the cheapest, best deals, so to speak.
Brilliant. Azwa, I have a slightly different question for you. What are some of the challenges you see in adopting technology innovation when it comes to creating impact that is both profitable and scalable at the same time?
All right, thank you, Doctor. There are several challenges, of course, that social enterprises, SEs, and nonprofits face when adopting to technology to create impacts and generate profits. I think first can be the costs, relate to what Deborah and Yuet mentioned just now about the financial sustainability. So first can be the cost. When it comes to social enterprises or nonprofits, we always have to deal with the cost of our operations, OPEX and everything. So technology adoption often comes with a high initial cost, which can be a significant barrier for social enterprises, for SEs and nonprofits with limited resources. For example, for social enterprises with their own e-marketplace, they need to set up the front end and back end of the website development or the app development, which can be quite costly unless the founders themselves have the expertise so they can do it by themselves. But otherwise, they will need to hire people. Second, the technical expertise. Technology implementation requires technical expertise and know-how, which may not be readily available within the organization. This can lead to difficulties in implementing and managing the technology. First, implement, second is manage. So I strongly recommend social enterprises and nonprofit organizations to invest some money to train the staff so that you have internal resources to manage your digital platforms, or maybe work with freelancers on a part-time basis with relatively cheaper price as compared to hiring a full-time expert, unless your company is ready and have a lot of money to invest and scale up. Next is the integration. Existing technology infrastructure and legacy systems can be quite challenging to integrate with the new technologies, and can cause implementation delays and additional costs. So this is quite relatable to my previous point, which is hiring technical expertise to smoothen the process so that your company can move fast. Nowadays, everything must be fast. If you're taking so much time to decide how much to allocate the resources, then I think you'll be left behind. The next one, I would say the challenge for the SEs and nonprofits is the digital divide. It's quite a significant challenge, digital divide between urban and rural areas, as well as between developed and developing countries or states. This means that some communities may not have access to the necessary technology and infrastructure required to adopt the technologies. So when it comes to targeted beneficiaries for SEs and nonprofits, we usually deal with people from marginalized communities. So they will definitely have some sort of challenges. Either they don't have knowledge how to navigate the digital platforms, or they don't have the device, or in a situation where we can give them the device, their place might not have a stable internet connection. So that's an issue. I think this is a much bigger issue that I believe the government has already looked into, and yeah, we look forward to the progress. Next point, I would say, it's not just applicable to SEs and nonprofits. This is applicable to all organizations. Data privacy and security issue. Social enterprises.
That's a big
Yes. Social enterprises and nonprofit, we work with sensitive data, which needs to be protected from cyber threats and potential data breaches. Ensuring data privacy and security can be a very significant challenge for organizations. One simple solutions that we adopt at SAY, I think this is also advised by our partner from Princess Trust based in the UK. I think they are more advanced when it comes to protecting this data, right? So they advised us, and we already implemented this. for every beneficiaries in our database, we do not write their names and IC. We just put numbers instead. For example, young people number 1, young people number 2. So what are the issues? Because we're dealing with young people from different backgrounds, from at-risk background. Their personal data is very sensitive lah, and then we need to protect them at all costs. My last, yeah.
Yes, sorry, I'm interrupting you.
I know you have a lot of points to mention as well, because you're also dealing with the...
No, I love, this is my, yeah, go ahead.
My last point will be the resistance to change lah. Okay, this one I think is a common challenge again for any organizations. To adopt new technologies requires significant change. Some stakeholders in our organization may be resistant to change. Stakeholders can be the beneficiaries, can be our staff even, and then we need additional time and resources. They need additional time and resources to adapt to new technology. So what we should do is that we need to consistently show the result lah, the impact before and after adopting to the new technology to convince this group of people lah. Because you know, there are some people, they feel like macam there are so many problems with data breaches and everything, so they don't want to adopt. So that shouldn't be the case. We need to convince them from time to time. Yeah.
Brilliant. No, I was just going to add in my personal take on this, because I'm working on health, access to health for children and single mothers, and so we decided that we were going to partner with a platform that already had all the technology, so we don't need to deal with that. We just pay them a retainer fee every month, and we're negotiating that right now. But yes, I totally agree with everything you say. Just to keep you on just for 1 second as well, because I want to ask you a second question, and then we can move on to the rest as well. How does the Selangor Youth Community contribute to strengthening the support for social startups at a time that, you know, it's so much needed, you say, right? You have to be quick, you have to be fast, there's so many urgent needs. How do you contribute to strengthening the support for these startups, social startups?
Thank you, Dr. So at SAY, we have the 4 focus areas or 4 departments. We have one specific department focusing on entrepreneurship development for young people. We call it Entrepreneurship Selangor. Under this department, we have a few signature projects. Okay, that's the thing about NGOs. We can't do too many projects because we're not the government. We are not like big corporations. So we don't want to be redundant. So we focus on the issues that are not being addressed or not being addressed properly. So at the moment we have 2 signatures, an upcoming one, another signature. The first one is Say Aspire. Say Aspire is an export ready program for young entrepreneurs to scale up their business by penetrating overseas market. Because we realized at one point of time, there are quite a number of young entrepreneurs, they already like making millions, but they don't know how to push forward. So we provide them coaching and mentoring from the experts in the industry. Most importantly is the network from the overseas partners. And up to date for Aspire, we have generated more than 8.5 million in export revenue among the entrepreneurs. Secondly, we have SayLead. I think this one is more relatable to your question. SayLead is the only structured and comprehensive entrepreneurship program for people with disability in Malaysia. We started SayLead in Selangor after 3 years of impactful outcomes. I just want to share that our average increase of revenue for the entrepreneurs before and after joining the program is at least 87%. There was a year where we exceed the 100% benchmark. So after, in our 4th year, we received a grant from the federal government to expand the program to beyond Selangor. And then we call it SayLead Pro. So they feel like, not just for Selangorian, let's expand it to beyond Selangor. So, okay, fine, we can do it. The objective of SayLead is that to help people with disability to reduce reliance on government handouts. You know, government spend a lot through JKM, through Welfare Department, on people with disabilities allowance. So we help this group to generate sustainable income through businesses, so they don't have to rely on the government handouts anymore. We give them coaching, mentoring, in-kind grants for equipment, facilitate the applications for license or registrations, and we open doors of opportunities with our partners. Sometimes they don't need money, but what they need is the access. For example, to apply for something. So we expedite the process. In time of needed, back to your question, I think I can relate to this one example, one success story during MCO. We still continue with Selit during MCO via online coaching. At that time, this guy, his name is Zaim Zazami. His business went down very bad during MCO, and he almost had to shut down the business and back to his hometown. So when he joined our class, we taught him to innovate his business model from being traditional teller to become trainer for tailoring via online classes. This is digitalisation lah. So his revenue increased, skyrocketed by 268%. And now he's already expanding his business and become one of our mentors at Selit Pro, giving back to the community. Yeah, upcoming one we have a collaboration with Wabi Rozia under Selangor State Government. We're going to help single mothers and asnaf women in business. We're going to use the same concept with State and Selit because it's already proven, but we are going to put more emphasis on the practicality of businesses for single mothers, because the challenges are different. When social enterprises or non-profit organizations, when we want to engage with this marginalized community, first we need to understand their background. Like for example, single mothers, we cannot do programs from morning till evening. We have to consider they need to pick up their kids from school. So the challenges are different, like the language preference, digital literacy, and so on. So for this single mothers project and asnaf, we are going to launch it soon. So anyone interested to participate, you can stay tuned and follow our social media.
Thank you, Azwa. Deborah, we're going to shift gears a little bit, but not quite, but a different question. Do you as a founder ever need to make key decisions between the trade-offs of making positive impact and profitability? I know the answer, but I'm just still. And what was your choice? I mean, can you give us an example as well, please?
Yeah, I mean, that's just super hard because you need to be, and I think I touched on this a little bit earlier, like what you say and what you do needs to be aligned. And once you lose the trust of your customer, or they feel that you're inauthentic, then you lose your business essentially, right? And that's what makes impact businesses different from the rest, is that their core is based on certain SDGs that they sign up to, right? That they align themselves with, and maintaining a certain percentage of profits that get donated or get given, invested, reinvested, or the number of people that they're working with or have to buy products from, right? And so when, especially coming out of COVID, when there were just, I mean, it was really, you had to innovate, you had to try something new, or you were going to die as a business, in which case then there's zero impact. So I definitely think being realistic to survive coming out of the pandemic, yes, we couldn't channel that kind of profit that we wanted to or typically were used to. We had to stop that. We had to kind of like reassess the whole, and in a short-term way, right? It's something you have to do short-term, but I think it's important to then also communicate that to your customers. So there's that a degree of transparency, as it were. But then, of course, once you get back to a better place, being able to then realign and recommit to the kind of impact that you have committed to. But this is also where I think, young startups, or, when you're starting out running a social enterprise, you do need a lot of certain kind of support that sometimes in the ecosystem here isn't quite available to social enterprises. So it's the kind of investments, the kind of funding that you can get, what are the kind of KPIs that your funders are asking for you? How are they helping you scale to achieve more impact versus being so focused on a really stringent number of KPIs that it actually strangles your business before you even get to that point of sustainability. So I would actually look at a broader part of how is the landscape or the ecosystem really understanding what social enterprises are here to do and really supporting them grow. So you're looking at do we have a mature impact investment ecosystem here? Do we have the right frameworks that we can actually subscribe to? Are we understood as social enterprises? Even things like tax exemption. So there's a lot of, I think, the bigger picture that actually needs to be addressed as well, if we're serious about supporting and championing, I think, the growth of impact business in Malaysia.
Yeah, you're echoing the conversation that we had on WhatsApp, our little social business group. Did you see that whole conversation, right? That's exactly what we were talking about, like how you raise money, etc. Kim, I need you to jump in here, please. I'm going to ask you the same question. What do the key decisions that you have to make between the trade-off of making positive impact and profitability, and what did you do? What choice did you make in the decisions?
I think because our business is essentially home cooked food, homemade by refugees, and refugees. The reason why we made it happen is because the refugees that we work with didn't have to come to our kitchen to work, or like produce the food, and that makes us able to go around. But again, if you want to scale, if you want to make more impact, there's a need to actually have a centralized kitchen, a kitchen that you have to figure creative ways to work things out and have it certified and be able to create a different source of impact. So I think at the end of the day, what's very important is the vision and the mission. Once we get the vision and mission really right, like really solid, that's the core of what the company does. Anything that goes, any decisions that you have to make will just go or be aligned with the vision and mission, and also the values that the company adopts. So for us, even if we have the centralized kitchen, I mean, that's a very real example. Even if we have like a certified centralized kitchen, it has to mean something to the vision and mission that we bring forward. Means it could be, part of the profit going to training programs. It could be having an apprenticeship program for refugees in the kitchen. Everything needs to go back and align with the vision and mission that we've set.
Brilliant. So we're here today, again, just a reminder that we're here to talk about discussing innovating for impact, the rise of tech-enabled social startups. We're talking about 2 to 3 different founders, leaders, innovators, change makers, about how this works in Malaysia as well and how we can scale up. And one of the things that struck me as I'm listening to the 3 of you is the fact that aligning goals and mission and vision is important, but when it comes to partnerships, it's a little harder, right? Because you have to get them to agree on the shared values, you have to get them to agree on shared missions, you have to ensure that all of you are aligned in terms of agreeing to what goals and agendas you want to set and what set targets you have for that year. So it's a little harder to get everyone to agree, but when you do, you can make so much impact. Deborah, I'm going to ask you just this final round of questions. What is a moment when you felt so grateful? I'm sure there were very many moments for making positive impacts through your social startup, through Fugeelah and etc. Can you just tell us share one moment with all of us here today, how you felt?
Well, so many moments really, but yes. Just before I get to that, I just wanted to add on to what you said earlier and about shared values, right? And I think it's a journey, because often we kind of come at people when they don't share our values with a little bit more aggression, or like, hey, you're bad, I'm good. And I think that's important to not go down that path. I think recognizing that all of us, like, everyone who's tuned in, we're all, whatever business we run, we're on our own journeys. As long as that there's that openness and kind of commitment to wanting to do better, to be better, right? To align yourself with, the SDGs. I think that's more important, right? And if you can find those common points, then where you can work together, that's great. And coming back to the moments, I mean, everything we do, like while Fugeelah sells jewelry, as I'm always modeling my own jewelry, and we sell internationally, and I think it's the idea that we talk about pity purchases, where don't come and buy, like you're going to buy a gift for someone, you're going to buy products. Let's move it away from a pity purchase that typically plagues the social enterprise space, where you're going to buy something that you like, and guess what? it does good at the same time. I think that's super important. But everything we do is anchored around an education, that every child has the right of an education. And that's the greatest gift, the greatest investment that you can ever give someone. And so the moments when you see a child like transform and be able to, I'll share a story, and this is empowered because of the work we do. There's an Afghan girl who was really wanting to study at a university level. So what part of our nonprofit actually offers a scholarship program to university. And she wanted to study astrophysics. And of course, in Malaysia, very few universities would even offer that. And because she's a refugee, perhaps she won't even gain access. But through our partnerships internationally, and through obviously very generous donors, we were able to secure a part scholarship for her to study online at the University of Arizona in the US. And then our scholarship program, our funders funded the balance of her scholarship. So you've got this girl who's living in Malaysia, who's from Afghanistan, who's now studying astrophysics internationally, thanks to tech, thanks to people with a shared vision. But that's the kind of that's, I mean, to use the word empowerment, that just is, it's insane. And you know, and the impact is generational. It's so important, like that impact is never just felt by one person. It's always, there's always that domino effect. And that's really when we talk about changing mindsets and changing hearts and changing lives.
Okay, you just gave me goosebumps. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Kim, same question. And then we'll move on to you, Azwa. I'm not leaving you out. You know, what's a moment where you felt so grateful for making all these positive impacts and sort of inspire yourself and everybody else to want to do better and do more?
I think, you know, like same as Deborah, there's so many good moments, especially in the refugee community. But because Deborah had shared an example of the refugee community, I'm going to share an example from my team members, because people always see like the founders are the people that that makes a difference, and oftentimes people forget that behind the founders are a bunch of team of people who actually does the groundwork, who actually makes those difference than us. So I think the moment when team members who come in not knowing much about the issues and slowly learn about it and go on stage to share about it and share the moments when they actually make those changes themselves are the very grateful moments that I have, because I think there's too few change makers in this world, and our job as founders are not just to bring impact to the community. Our job is to show many other people that it is possible, that they can make the change on themselves, by themselves as well, on themselves and also by themselves. So I think that's one very grateful moment, that I've been very, very fortunate to be able to work with hundreds over part-timers, full-timers, caterers, people who believed in our vision in making a better place in Malaysia for refugees to be in. Those are the proud moments that I cherish.
Well said. Lovely. Azwa, shifting gears again. How can youth leverage the power of digitalization and impact making to help grow their business?
There are several ways to do that. I think one of it you already mentioned just now, Dr. Tini, to use the existing e-commerce platforms or existing platforms. The rise of e-commerce has made it easier for young entrepreneurs to sell their products and services online. By creating an online store, you can reach a global audience, reduce your overhead costs, and increase sales. So to set up your own e-commerce platform is not cheap. It requires expertise and capital. There are many existing e-commerce platforms or other platforms that that provide trainings to onboard new sellers. There are also vouchers subsidized by the government, for example, the free shipping vouchers. So make use of all that. Subscribe to the newsletter. You have to be rajin, you have to be hardworking. Subscribe to the newsletter, keep updated with the new offers from them, especially when it comes to seasons like Raya, Chinese New Year. There are many campaigns that sellers can participate. The second one is the digital marketing. Youth can utilize social media platforms, email marketing, search engine optimizations, and other digital marketing techniques to reach a broader audience and increase your customer base. The easiest is at least to make sure that your organization has social media accounts. Post every initiative that you do with impactful caption. Most importantly, in your caption, you should have the call to action to link them to somewhere. Like, for example, the call to action can be like, click here to support our business, to support refugees, to support single mothers, or donate 10 ringgit to support one B40 student or something like that. So impactful caption is also important. Thirdly is the crowdfunding. Similar like e-commerce platform, there are quite a number of crowdfunding platforms such as Incitement, NGO Hub. They help NGOs and CSOs to raise funds for your campaigns. Some of the existing platforms don't even ask for registration fees. They will take a small percentage only for the payment gateway system and for also the maintaining the platforms. But I think it's still a better deal as compared to having to manage your own platform. These crowdfunding platforms also usually have campaigns from time to time to increase the visibility of the organizations on the platform. So you can also tap into their network and expand your outreach. I would say next is utilize the e-meeting platforms and online working platforms such as Microsoft Teams, Zoom, Google Meet. Use these to collaborate with other organizations from other parts of the world, not just from Malaysia, where you can exchange ideas, increase visibility, exposure on how other people doing it, and explore new opportunities. Crowdfunding can also happen outside of Malaysia. Hiring freelancers, for example, a designer, developer, etc., can also be people from outside of Malaysia. The beauty of technology is that we are not limited by geographical barriers, and we can also explore things that may not be available or expensive in Malaysia. My last point is, I think is relevant to our topic today, to incorporate social impact in your business. Young entrepreneurs, you can leverage digitalization to create social impact and make a difference in the community. By incorporating social impact into your business model, you can actually attract the socially conscious customers and investors who are looking to support businesses that align with their values. Again, these people may come from other countries, not necessarily in Malaysia. The good thing about digitalization is that we are not bound by the geographical barriers. So please leverage on all these digital platforms to create online presence and increase visibility.
Thank you, Azwa. I think what we're going to do now is open it up to the floor, and I see a whole bunch of questions here, and we only have 10 minutes. So I'm gonna just pick 3, and then anybody can just jump in and answer if that's okay. The first question is, in your experience, is the path to obtaining seed funding different from social startups compared to other startups? And are there unique challenges for social startups in this regard? So that's one question. Another question is, how do you maintain innovation? I guess innovators, How do you maintain innovation if you're running the operations every day? Yeah, and another one, which I think you sort of answered, but I'm just going to put it out there as there. What other different, this is a good one. How do we prevent social washing? So I'm opening it up to all 3 speakers. Who would like to take the first question or take a stab at the first question? What's the path to obtaining seed funding? In your experience, is the path to obtaining seed funding different for social startups compared to other startups? And are there unique challenges for social startups in this regard? Who wants to take this question? I'll take a stab at it.
I can start off. I think, well, firstly, you have to look at the kind of investors and who you're speaking with, whether it's an individual or whether it's a funds or government grants. It has to be about shared values, because I think we just spoke so much at length about the fact that for an SE, it is about your mission, your vision, your values. And once you lose that, then you don't have anything. So having that strong foundation, that's clear to the founders. And then, you know, going out and looking for your seed funding, you need people that are aligned with that. From my experience, you know, in Malaysia, yes, you have some funds that are available, but impact investment and generally individuals who are interested in that sort of investment, it is quite minimal. It's still a big minority. People are still looking at how much, like at the end of the day, they're still looking at how much money I can get back. You know, there have been success stories. We are part of a few social enterprise group chats, and you do see success stories, which are great of companies. I think after quite a few years, they're able to build something a bit more sustainable to show profits. And then I think they're able to perhaps try to align with potential investors. So, but I would say it's super important to find people or funds that have shared values. And I think also having not just the funds, but also then that partnership or the co-founders or the actual people that you're working with. I think there's a lot of value add there, not just the money.
Anybody else before I move to repeat the second question? No? If not, I'll ask the second question if someone else can take it, or, you know, Deborah as well, if you want to jump in. How do you maintain innovation if you're running the operations every day, right? Anybody? Would you like to, any of the panelists?
I can take on. I think there are many ways. It's either you hire someone, the chief innovation officer, or actually you have to really segregate time. But you have to choose which sector do you want to be in. If you, every department can have innovation. So if you're in operations, there's also innovation in operations to reduce increase operational efficiency or reduce operational time. If you're in the sales or business development sector, there are also innovation that is required to drive the product, or even, you know, like collecting information from the customers towards the product development, the department to drive innovation. So there are ways to be doing that. You have to be in operations to know innovation, because if you're not in the operation, your innovation that you're going to come up with, it's not going to be aligned with what the department or the company needs. It's going to be your own idea out of your own world, and it has no relation with the people that is working on ground or people who needs that innovation. If you're going to innovate for a bunch of community, you're going to have to, you know, be with them, understand them thoroughly before coming up with an innovation. Innovation needs to be humane, needs to be empathic, not something that you come out with, not understanding anything.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Azwa,
yes.
How do we prevent social washing?
That's a very interesting question. How do we prevent social washing? I think this is like, if I get the definition correctly, social washing is like you overclaim something, right? You overclaim your impacts. Is that correct? All right. So, in my opinion, for social enterprises, non-profit organizations, you have a few benchmark you can refer on. For SE, social enterprise, you can look at their accreditation. You can look at their accreditation. The government will give accreditation to social enterprises. And if they don't have the accreditation, you can look at the list of partners that they have or the initiatives that they do for the beneficiaries. Then you can see whether or not they're overclaiming their impacts. The easiest is to look at the accreditation. And for NGOs, same thing, look at whether or not they get the tax exemption status, because those are the things, accreditation, tax exemption status are not easy to get. So the fact that they get it, high chances are they're doing good things for their beneficiaries in the community. Yeah, I think Ravi also said that he wants to answer the question.
Okay, please, Ravi, go ahead. And then maybe one last final sentence from each of the panelists.
Go ahead. I'm just marking it as being replied. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I think we're running out of time. So I'd like to get one final statement or one last thing each of the panelists would like to share with the audience. Why don't we start with you, Kim? And then Deborah, and then Azwa, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think I can share based on the question, like how's advice to start a social enterprise one day. I guess like there's a, I always tell people this, it's really easy to just give hope, but if you are going to take away that hope, then don't start, because you have to stay true to that. If it's a beneficiary or a community, it's really not giving hope is really better than you giving hope and then being taken away. So if you want to be in this, you've got to think really hard if you could sustain this for the next 5 years, because some communities can actually sustain themselves. They probably don't really need us. But if we are going in to make a change, then we have to make it to the end.
Well said, Kim. Thank you. Deborah.
I'm very much echoing Kim's sentiments. It is running a social enterprise isn't easy. I think beyond running a business, you're really working with real people to help to support them, live better lives, it's not something to play with. I would say, I think it's a role that every one of us has a role to play. You don't have to be the person that's starting a social enterprise. You don't have to be a person that has any experience running a nonprofit. But I think I would reflect on look at your individual role in whatever capacity that you're in to see what can I do to make this ecosystem better? Is that buying the right products? Is that supporting the right businesses? Is that, making better organizational decisions? Even in terms of CSRs, companies, even in terms of ticking your ESG boxes, how do you make it more sustainable? And educating the next generation, our next generation, Gen Z or whoever that is, they are people that they are more aligned with causes. They think more about businesses, ethics, values. And so, continuing this conversation, because I think it's really only going to change. The world's only going to be, looking at the environment, looking at people, looking at the planet, if we all play our individual roles. So I would trigger your individual capacity to do better.
Great. Shared leadership, shared roles, shared responsibilities. Azwa, I leave you to say the final word.
They both already mentioned everything. So I just want to also echo what Kim and Deborah mentioned. One thing that I'm in the social community development, do this kind of work, social work, I think for more than 10 years. And I noticed one thing that is similar among the people in the ecosystem is the passion. If you don't have the passion, it will be very difficult for you to sustain, because passion, that's you can relate. Passion is not something that you can, you can buy. Passion comes from within, from your niat, your intention, the sincerity. So from the passion, it will drive you forward. You will have the spirit to motivated to go to meet with partners, investors, stakeholders. And then if you, if let's say you thought about doing something good, I would say take the first step, do it. If you delay, chances are you might forget about it one day. Just take the first step and do it. Find people with the similar mindset, the similar intention, and do the job. That's all.
Thank you as well. Thank you all. This has been a conversation about innovating for impact, the rise of tech-enabled social startups. Again, I apologize for coming in late. My laptop had to go fix, but Haizam, I'm going to pass it back to you, if that's okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tini. Really, really interesting session. I learned a lot, and I'm sure. Yeah, and I'm sure that everyone else who attended the talk also learned a lot. And the video will be on YouTube as well. So please keep an eye on that. I take this opportunity to thank you, Dr. Tini, Deborah, Kim, and Azwa for attending. Ravi?
Well, this has been a great event, and got me thinking about, there is a limit to material growth, and that limit is being imposed, on us by the earth and the constraints of the materials we have. So we'd love to have do more events like this. I deeply appreciate all the panelists who participated today, and especially Dr. Tini for your moderation. Thank you all.
No, not at all. I thought it was such a wonderful learning conversation as well. So thank you again for inviting me. Thank you so much. I apologize again for being late. Thank you so much. Well, have a good rest of the day, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, guys.
All right, bye.